Well, I ranked all the Gen 2 Pokemon this time. I figured if I can at least get one of these out a month by the time it's November when the new Pokemon games, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, come out, I will have done all 8 generations. And then in November or December, depending on what I do, we can finish it off with Gen 9 Pokemon that are going to be brand new. But for now, we're in April, and April is Gen 2. So let's get right into the Pokemon that I dislike from this generation, which is always a fun way to start. Now, you may have noticed that there was a certain Pokemon in a tier below F tier, which is usually on tier list F is the lowest tier that you can go. But on mine, there was one lower, and it's called Murkrow Sadface. And I'll tell you why that is a thing, and that's because Murkrow is my least favorite Pokemon of all 900 something of them that there are now. First of all, it's ugly. It's just a bird with a dumb hat on. Or it's a crow with a dumb hat on, which crows are just uglier birds. It's dumb because it's the bird with the hat on. It's weak. And yes, it got Honchkrow later, but Honchkrow isn't much of an improvement, and I'd probably still be in my top least favorite Pokemon. It also didn't deserve one. I would have been probably less upset at it if it just stayed as Murkrow. While we're ranting about it, its shiny is terrible. They could have at least given it like a navy blue color or a red or a purple would have been nice, but they go with this ugly shade of pink, which usually I'm okay with pink shinies, like Heracross, for example, from Gen 2. It doesn't have a terrible shiny. It would have been cooler if it had a different shiny, but that's a different point. But Murkrow's pink shiny looks awful on it and only makes me hate it more. And I just don't like its guts. Now that rant's over, now we can actually move on to the F tier, which are the bad Pokemon. Starting with Unknown, which is a weird Pokemon because it's not really a Pokemon. It's this letter hieroglyph monstrosity, and it's very pointless. I don't know why they need to make an alphabet Pokemon, especially this early. Like, I don't know, maybe Gen 4, where all the Arceus stuff's happening. You know how the Sinjo ruins and all that unknown cool stuff? Like, why'd they do it in Gen 2 when there was nothing for these Arceus? Well, there's nothing for these unknowns to do. And it's also weak. It only learns Hidden Power, which is an okay move, but when that's the only move you learn on a Psychic-type Pokemon, it's bad. It's also kind of ugly. Like, I get there's not much you can do with an alphabet Pokemon, but I just designed different Pokemon, especially because it has, 28 forms? All 26 letters in the exclamation mark and question mark. Like, yeah, they could have done more, and it's just disappointing. And then next we have Sunkern, which is weird because, as I mentioned in the last video, and as you'll see as we go up the tiers, I like grass types a lot, actually. But when it comes to Sunkern, it's like the weakest Pokemon of all time, which not only makes it unappealing to me, but it also makes it, awful if you have the lowest base stat total of any Pokemon. Especially when there's babies, Pokemon that are made to be weak. It's also ugly. I mean, that's a given. Have you looked at Sunkern? So we're going to loop the next two together with Smoochum and Igglypuff, which are two babies that I don't like. And Smoochum is obvious. I didn't like Jinx, so it's probably clear that I'm not going to like Smoochum. But Igglypuff is kind of ugly. Like, it has this weird hair thing growing on its head. Like, it would have been cuter if it had the Jigglypuff ears, or even, little baby stubs, kind of like little Meryl ears on it. It would have been cuter. Also, something about its eyes, like the deep red eyes, kind of put me off. It's also weak, but hey, weak usually isn't a problem for me, as you probably see by the upper tier list when we get there. There's Pokemon like Spinnerhack and good tier, but we'll get to that when that time comes. They're also pointless. Like, there are baby Pokemon that I can understand the existence of, like Pichu, but Pokemon like Smoochum, you don't want to draw more attention to Jinx, because, back in Gen 1, when it had the racist design, and they decided to give it a baby, it only drawed more attention to Jinx. And Igglybuff I just don't like. Next up is Snubble, which is more of a personal bias to me, as I can see why people would like it, but to me, it's extremely ugly, and its face is scary in the worst way possible. Like, I know it's based on a bulldog, which have naturally kind of ugly and intimidating faces, but in my opinion, they made it way too ugly. Like, I don't like Gramble, as you can probably see up above in the neutral tier, but at least it's not horrifically ugly where I look at it and I'm like, yeesh, that's an ugly Pokemon. So I just don't like it because it's so ugly. And speaking of so ugly, Tyrogue. Why does it look like that? Why does it look like a little pink guy in weird skin pants and the bandages around its body? Is that part of its body? Like, what is that? It also doesn't look anything like the other Hitmons. It doesn't look anything like Hitmonlee, Hitmonchan, or Hitmontop, which is weird because I can understand if they give it like a brown color as its main color scheme instead of pink, because that would match the other guys and it'd probably make me hate it a little bit less. And to top it all off, the weird spikes on its head. Like, I get that Hitmonchan had weird spikes on its head, and I get that that's a characteristic, but Hitmonlee and Hitmontop to an extent don't have those, which makes it look weird. It's also just popping out of the skin, which makes it look like spikes, and I don't know, it just puts me off. Moving on to D tier, which are Pokemon that I can understand why somebody would like, but I personally am not a fan of it. Starting with Cleffa. And the only reason that this baby Pokemon is not in the F tier is because it's cute. Smoochum and Igglypuff are ugly. Cleffa, it's cute. I'll give it that. It's pointless, but it's cute. I don't like it, but it's not an F tier Pokemon. And then we move on to Dela Bird, which is like, why? Why does Dela Bird exist? We could have had a cooler ice flying type. We could have used the idea of Santa Claus and used it much better. You could have given evolution. You could have made its stats better. You could have given it better moves. You could have given it a better signature move rather than present, which I get the origin of Santa Claus, but still doesn't mean I'm going to like the Pokemon or the move. And then Togetic is another one of those personal ones, kind of like Snubble, where I can understand why somebody would like it. Somebody would like it, but I really don't. And that's because of its 3D model. And I guess it's 2D model to an extent, where it's kind of like struggling to keep up. Like, if you've ever seen this 3D model, it's kind of like flapping its wings and moving its feet at the same time as if it's struggling to stay in the air, and it's always kind of off-putting to me. And the wings look unnatural. Same with the head. Like, Togepi's this cute little round egg guy, and then it gets this long neck with this weird head and weird wings on it, which kind of off-put me. And overall, I just kind of think it's ugly, and I don't understand the appeal of Togetic. Like, Togekiss is cool, Togepi is cute, but not Togetic. Porygon 2 is a weird one, but it's just one of those Pokemon that's never clicked with me. Like, I can absolutely see why people like Porygon 2. It's strong. If you give it an Eevee, it's one of the best competitive Pokemon you can have. Lots of stretch, but you get what I mean. And I just don't like it. Like, I like Porygon, and I really like Porygon Z, but I just never clicked with Porygon 2. And I don't really have much else to say on that one. But Quillava is one that people are probably not going to like that I put this low. And that's mainly because of its 3D model without the flame on it. It literally just looks like this weird bean-shaped creature. Which, I mean, with the fire it gets better. And in the model that's used for the tier list, it looks much better than in most of the games it's in. It's also kind of one of those mid-stage evolutions. Kind of like Monferno or Prinplup or Combuskin, that kind of just looks ugly and awkward, which is used a lot, I know, but I just never liked those Pokemon. I get what they're going for, but I just don't like the weird, awkward-looking middle stages. Sneasel. Once again, never really clicked with me. Like, I can understand why people like Sneasel. Dark Ice, cool typing. It's strong with an Eviolite. Weavile's really cool and definitely deserved it. Or Sneasel definitely deserved to get Weavile, because it's a cool design. But I just never clicked with it, like what I said with Porygon 2. I don't know, it's kind of off-putting to me. Especially the female Sneasels that don't have the extra long feathers, kind of not a huge fan. And then the last one, Umbreon, which is definitely the most controversial and hot take on my tier list. But I just don't like Umbreon. I think it's definitely overhyped, similar to Jolteon. But I like Jolteon more than Umbreon because Jolteon is classic and has a cool design. I think that they could have done more with the Dark-type evolution. I feel like if they retyped Umbreon to not be an Eevee, I would like it more. But considering what Espeon brings to the table, and even any of the Gen 1 or even Gen 4 evolutions that they brought in, I feel like Umbreon's a little generic because it's just kind of like a black cat thing with red stripes on it. And I'm sure it has a cool origin that I'm too lazy to look up, but I always wanted something with a cooler design, especially for the dark type. Now moving on to the neutral tier, which is the same story as the Gen 1 video if you saw it. All the Pokemon are neutral. I don't hate them, I don't love them, they're neutral. But there are two Pokemon at the bottom that I do want to talk about, and that's Gramble and Politoed, which these two were close to being in bad, but they had one or two saving qualities that made me put them above it. I.e. Politoed being really cute for no reason, even though I really don't like where they went with the Poliwag line. Like, I feel like making its own thing would be better, but I don't hate it overall. I would say I'm neutral towards it, which is why it's here. And as for Gramble, I just think it's kind of a cool design. Like, initially, so, funny story, I did this, like, a month ago, because I was planning on releasing it on the 15th of every month. Then it deleted, so I had to do this tier list again. And initially, I had Gramble in F tier with Snubble, because I didn't like it. But then when I went back at it, I was like, it's cool, it's strong, I get why people like it. So I bumped it up to the neutral tier. And then the rest of the tier isn't anything special. It's like your Slowkings, your Stantlers, your Skiplooms, as the Pokemon are just kind of there. Then there's Pokemon like Swinub or Mischievous that are forgettable. But, like, I'm not hating on them or anything, but I'm also not loving them either. Similar story to the neutral tier. It's going to be the same thing as in the Gen 1 video, but the good Pokemon are good. I can see why people would like these Pokemon, or somebody would put these as their favorite Pokemon, for one reason or another, but they're good for me. I don't think they're bad, I don't think they're great, but they're good. And there are some Pokemon that are cute, like Spinarak, Natsu, or Phanpy that are in this tier. So then there's also like the strong, cool, powerful Pokemon like Raikou or Typhlosion or Steelix. Or just those really cool Pokemon that I can understand why people like, but just aren't great for me. They're good, don't get me wrong, I really like them, but they're not great worthy. So now we have the great tier, which is where I'm going to go a lot more in depth about every Pokemon. Like, I'm going to group some into categories and then talk about them. For example, I'm going to talk about the 3 water types in this one, the Mantine, Kingdra, and Feraligatr, which are all strong and cool water Pokemon that I really like, especially Mantine and Kingdra, even though they're at the lower end, which is weird looking back on it. But Feraligatr I like because it's a starter, and I like most starters, unless you're a middle stage. But Feraligatr's a cool final level, so that's probably why it's higher. But for Mantine and Kingdra, they're just powerful and cool design-wise, and all that cool jazz and stuff. And then for the grass types that you see, aka Blossom, Jumpluff, and I guess Bayleaf too, are just because I like the grass type. Like, I can understand many people not putting these Pokemon as high as I do, especially ones like Bayleaf, because that's just the middle form. And like I said, I'm not hugely huge on middle forms, but that could also come from my love of the Meganium line, as you can probably see higher up. And then that also brings me to Cyndaquil and Totodile, which are in the tier as well, which are cute and cool first stage starters. I like them a lot, but they're not my favorite, and that's why they have to be here. And then there's also just the really cute ones. There's Meryl, Pichu, and Wooper, which I believe are the only pre-evolved ones that aren't the starters, and Mareep, but we'll get to Mareep later. They're just too cute, especially Meryl. Really cute for no good reason, and I just I really like them for the fact that they're just so cute. Scizor, Heracross, Tyranitar, and Crobat 2 are all just like these really cool and powerful Pokemon that are like staples of Gen 2. Like, these are the ones, when you think of Gen 2, you think of Scizor or Heracross, or even some ones that I haven't talked about yet, like Entei or Ho-Oh or any of the starters. Just these cool Pokemon that I just really like because of their design and how cool they are. And then, of course, the Legendaries that I already brought up, Entei, Suicune, and Ho-Oh are all in here, which are definitely very high highlights of Gen 2. And they're really cool and powerful. And you might have seen earlier, but Raikou and Celebi are in good tier, and that's because I like both of them for what they are, but in comparison to Entei, Suicune, Ho-Oh, and Lugia, definitely the lower parts of Gen 2, especially Raikou. I've never loved Raikou. I've always liked it. I've always looked at Raikou and been like, yeah, that's cool, and then it never stuck with me. Starting off the S tier, we have 6 very solid and my favorite Gen 2 Pokemon, and just solid Pokemon in general, I guess you could say. But we're starting off with Lugia, and same thing like I was just talking about with Ho-Oh, and Entei, and Suicune, and Celebi, and all those. It's definitely my favorite legendary, especially for my box art legendary Gen 2. It also has just really cool lore, like being the guardian of the ocean, and like the protector of the 3 legendary birds. Definitely fleshed out it compared to like some of the later generation legendaries, like saying, I don't know, Pheromosa. Like, what cool lore does Pheromosa have? And then you're like, I guess it's a bug cockroach lady. But then you think of like, okay, what cool lore does Lugia have? And you're like, it's the protector of the ocean, cool design, it's sleek, it's white, it's psychic, it's flying, it's all this cool stuff. And it's the protector of the 3 legendary birds, which are also very cool Pokemon. And then we have Elekid, which may confuse some of you because I've been very hard on baby Pokemon, aside from Pichu. But that's also kind of a smash effect kind of thing why I like Pichu. But Elekid, I don't know why I like it so much, but it's just so cute and cool at the same time, and it really strikes me as a Pokemon I like. It's definitely the best baby Pokemon they've ever made. That's a easy clap. I mean, Pichu's close, but once again, that's mainly because of Smash and how cute it is. But definitely, Elekid gets the edge for me. Also, just the plug design. I don't know why I've always liked it, but when I was little, I was thinking about doing this feature video, by the way. Let me know if you want to see it. But I drew these fake Pokemon cards, and one of them was like Plugzle, which is very close to Plusle, but it was just electrical outlet that was sentient, and it's very generic. But very recently, I redrew it as this like electric beast Pokemon, which I think was very cool. So I've always liked the idea of a plug socket Pokemon, which is what Elekid is. So that's probably why I like it so much. And it's also funny that I don't like Electabuzz, but I really like Elekid and I really like Electivire, which means that it really saved the line for me. Because if they never included Elekid or Electivire, I would not care for Electabuzz at all, basically. Now we move on to Chikorita, which is definitely one of my favorite first stage starters. Obviously, it's not going to be somebody like Squirtle, and there's going to be very many of them in future generations, as you'll see. I do like a lot of the first stage starters, especially the grass types. But it's definitely one of my favorites, and it's cute. It's definitely underappreciated. Like, when you look at first stage starters, even I put Cyndaquil and Totodile very high. And in Gen 1 video, I put Charmander and Bulbasaur very high, which are the ones that I don't really pick that often because they're not my favorite, but I still appreciate all of their designs and think they're really well designed. But Chikorita and I guess Squirtle too are just like super cute and always kind of appeal to me. Like that's always been my favorite starter. Like I've looked at it since I like first looked at all 3 starters together. I'd be like, yes, Chikorita is my favorite. Like, it wasn't much of a competition as later generations, especially ones like Gen 5 and Gen 4 get, where it's like, I like all of them to an extent, but none of them really stick to me. But this one really stuck to me, and that's why I like it a lot. Then we have Amperes, and I guess the rest of the Mareep line I forgot to mention as well. But it's just really solid design, especially for a sheep compared to something like Wooloo and Double, which I do like. From later generations, I think the electric sheep works much better as a cool design, as well as the fact that it's strong, and I have a lot of nostalgic attachment to it, because my first ever taste of Pokemon had an Ampharos at the front of it, which always made me really like Ampharos as a Pokemon. And then we move on to Espeon, which is stolen the crown from Flareon, who held it for a long time, as my favorite Eevee evolution. And I used to like Flareon, like I already said. Probably didn't need to repeat that. And in my Gen 1 video, I still put it in S tier because I do still really like Flareon. But Espeon is just such a sleek design, and it is really strong in battle. Like, you'd be surprised at how good it is in battle, which only makes me dislike Umbreon more because of how much of a disappointment it is in battle, especially because of the dark type in the physical special split. Losing a lot of Umbreon's stab moves for its special attack kind of made it a lot worse, as you have to rely on moves like Feint Attack or Assurance instead of moves like Crunch, which are always strong attacks for Pokemon. It's also underappreciated. Like, a lot of people talk about why they love Umbreon, and nobody ever really talks about Espeon as their favorite. Similar story to Flareon, really. And I don't know, I just think this Pokemon deserves more attention and appreciation than it gets. But that has brought us to my number one favorite Johto Pokemon, Meganium, which, yes, it is another starter. And yes, I realize this and kind of wish Espeon took it, but then I thought about it more and I was like, no, Meganium's definitely the favorite. It's just so elegant in its design. Like, I can't really explain why I like it. But it has giant, beautiful flower around its neck. It has cool antennas, which, yes, I do wish it kept the leaf of its previous evolutions. But no Pokemon is perfect, and that's also why I like it, because it's flawed. It's really bad in battle, and it's kind of hated by a lot of people, especially on those like starter ranked tier lists. People like to put it very low, which I disagree with, but that's just me. So I kind of think it's underappreciated, and that's kind of why I like it. I'm kind of like defensive over it. People are like, I don't like Meganium, it's the worst starter, and I'm like, no, don't you talk about my baby like that. And then I get defensive about it. It's also just a beautiful Pokemon. Like I said, like, it's simple yet effective. It's just this green plant dinosaur thing with a flower on its neck, which, granted, isn't that creative, but they make it work so effectively with its basic design that make it look so good. And that's why Meganium is my favorite Generation 2 Pokemon. Is it better than Squirtle? No. Absolutely not. But at the end of the series, I was thinking about combining all of the best of the best here from all, I guess, 9 generations by the time I end this, and then all Pokemon I dislike, so F tier and D tier Pokemon, and combine those as well, and like rank those from worst to best from all 9 generations as well, which is weird to say considering Scarlet and Violet don't come out till November. But I am super excited for those games, and I'm super excited to continue doing this tier list for you. I hope you enjoyed, and next month, May, we'll be doing the Hoenn Pokemon, so look out for that.